What's up, Savvy Expats? We are back for part 2 of my pet peeves about the Philippines. Stick to the end of this video because whether you're an expat or a local, you could probably relate. Alright, without wasting time, let's get into it. So kicking off this list, the first pet peeve I've experienced here is self-inviting. Okay, maybe this only occurred with my family, but we've come across a lot of people here that try to invite themselves over. And the thing is, everyone knows that a universal rule of society is that you just don't invite yourself over to someone else's house. If you want to go to someone's place, you just wait for an invitation. This happened to us so many times to the point where I wondered if this is the only etiquette that applies to the US. And we have no problem having people over, and it's something that we didn't make a big deal out of, but it was just weird to see people inviting themselves over. Tell me, have you ever experienced this, or was it just us? Moving on to pet peeve number 2 of the Philippines, that is names. Yep, that's right, names. Everything about names confuses me here in the Philippines. First off, the names here are extremely long. I'm talking Antonio Esquerres de Guzman Reyes Garcia de la Cruz. And I'm not making fun of it, you get my point. I'm just trying to say that the names here are structured differently than just first, middle, and last name. And in all seriousness, I do believe it's because Filipinos take after their mother's maiden name too. And my second problem about names in the Philippines is that no one ever gets my name right here.
What?
I have a simple 4-letter name, E-V-A-N, Evan. No one ever pronounces it correctly. Whenever I introduce myself to people, I get every other name under the sun except Evan. People call me Even, Ivan, Kevin, heck, Tyrone. It's never correct. I kid you not, 80% of the time my name is not pronounced correctly. I don't get what's so hard. But you know what, guys? It's not a huge deal. I just tell people you can just call me Kevin because that's usually easier. Now, for my third pet peeve of the Philippines, that is shy culture. I get it. Some people are genuinely shy, but we've come across a lot of people that act as if they're shy, but they're not. If I have a meal with someone and I ask them if they want to try some of my food and they respond, "I'm shy," I'll just be sitting there like, I know you've been eyeing my food for the past 20 minutes. And then sooner or later, they ask me for a bite. And really, this is not something that's necessarily wrong, but it's like endlessly beating around the bush. Or there's times we can order food in with friends and we ask them, "What do you want?" And they say, "I'm shy." Like, from my perspective, if I'm already ordering for everyone, just tell me what you want just in case you change your mind. Anyways, moving on to pet peeve number 4, that is aggressive interrupters. Have you ever come across somebody that always cuts you off, or better yet, always try to finish your sentences? Well, if you have, then you know what I'm talking about. We have many friends that we love to death, but just won't stop interrupting. And again, not a huge deal, but the reason I added this to the list is because we haven't experienced this nearly as much in America as we have in the Philippines. Now, for pet peeve number 5, that is academic success is the only way. Don't get me wrong, I think education is extremely important. Without it, we wouldn't have doctors, lawyers, and engineers. And for those pursuing those roles, academic success is vital for being of value in those fields. But in the Philippines and all of Asia, success in school is seen as the only way to be successful. That if you pursue anything else, it's taboo and you won't amount to anything. From my experience, 99% of the time I meet people here, the first question I get asked is, "Where do you go to school?" School here is extremely valuable to everybody, and of course we can see why, but it's gotten to the point where it even decides your value. If you go to this school or that school, then you're higher in value. And more often than not, the only thing that's talked about in friend groups here is just school. Yes, don't get me wrong, it's important, but I don't think it's the only way to become a somebody. Moving on to pet peeve number 6, that is common sense isn't used. Again, this doesn't go for all Filipinos, but we have seen lack of common sense here often. For example, you're checking out one item at the grocery store and the cashier closes the lane. She tells you she closed the cashier because it's lunch break, and you tell her that you just need one item to check out. And then she responds, "No, it's lunch break." I mean, this is just something that doesn't make sense. Oh, and there's also this one funny occasion where I booked a Grab to pick me up at a military camp. And it's quite confusing to get into this military camp to pick me up because there's 6 different gates that you can enter through. And so I called the Grab driver and I said, "Oh, just go to gate 6 and they'll let you in there." And then my coach comes over and he's like, no. He takes the phone out of my hand and goes, "Gate 1, close. Gate 2, close. Gate 3, also close. Gate 4, let me think, close. Gate 5, close." just go to gate 6, go to gate 6. And I'm standing there like, I just said that. So it's just like those little things that just don't make any sense. Moving on to pet peeve number 7 of the Philippines, that is gossiping. Something that you'll notice in the Philippines is that news spreads like wildfire, and that's because gossiping is very prevalent here. I also think it's because there's so many small towns in the Philippines and the communities are very close-knit here, so it's easy to gossip. You can imagine everyone knows everyone, so naturally people want to know the scoop. So names get thrown around, rumors are made, and it's enjoyed as a pastime. Now for pet peeve number 8, that is people who overstay their welcome. What I love but at the same time dislike about the Philippines is that the party never ends here. Nobody wants to go home because they're having a great time, which is great, but at some point we all gotta go home. And generally, to be courteous of the host, you leave when it's time to leave. But with Filipinos, long goodbyes take decades, so things drag on and on. Now for pet peeve number 9 that you've probably never heard, that is responding without words. I've rarely experienced this in the States, but I've often experienced this in the Philippines. Instead of a yes or a no, I'd often hear, just like a grumble. To me, it just seems improper, that's all. Moving on to pet peeve number 10, that is expecting foreigners to pay. The majority of the time, if you're a foreigner, the bill is going to you. What's worse is when you're the one invited, they choose a restaurant, they invite friends, and then you're the one that has to pay. At this point, this is just an expectation that's ingrained in not all, but many Filipinos. And so there you have it, Savvy Expats. That is my last 10 pet peeves of the Philippines. Again, these are often the last things on my mind when living in the Philippines because the upsides of living here far outweigh the downsides. In reality, none of these pet peeves are a big deal. If you have any pet peeves you can relate to or that I haven't mentioned, let me know down below. And so thank you for watching, Savvy Expats, and I'll see you in the next video. God bless.